This is beautiful. This is a very nice event. Thank you for putting this on. Thank you for having us in. Donna and I love to get these opportunities to meet you guys. Thank you. My name is Jim Carlin. I am a candidate for the U.S. Senate. And, invariably people ask you, why would you undertake this? You guys remember a fellow named Ronald Reagan?
Yes.
Remember him? What did he say to us? Government isn't the solution to the problem. Government is the problem. I think those words are true today. I think they apply today. When I was a kid in the 1970s, my dad was a doctor. The government took about 35 cents out of every dollar your dad and your mom worked for at that time. Do you know what the number is today? It's 52 cents on the dollar. That's a lot of money. That looks a little like slavery, doesn't it? A little. Well, the case I want to talk to you today is about why is government the problem and what can we do about it, okay? Because I think there is a problem, and I think the problem comes down to this. The interests of the people are often antithetical to big corporate interests that subsidize politicians. When you have huge I have no problem with corporations, but when corporations start defining our government instead of the interests of the people, we have to check ourselves and see how we can fix that. I have been married to my wife, Donna, for 30 years. I asked God for a wife. I got my very first client the same day. Yes, I did do her divorce. That's another story, but he gave me a good one. He gave me a good one. She's my best friend. I'm honored to be married to a good lady, and we raised 3 kids. We have 3 grandkids, and grandkids change perspective. You start to get in touch with the reality that maybe you have a little bit of responsibility to those grandkids with the time that you have left, right? So I am a U.S. Army veteran. I served during the Reagan years. I've been practicing law in Sioux City for 34 years. There's not a lot I haven't seen. And I served in the Iowa House and Senate for 6 years. And they made me the Senate Veterans Affairs Chair. And when they did, I started asking questions. And I went to the Iowa Veterans Home. And I sat down and I met with the veterans, and 4 of them had been put in the Alzheimer's ward. And there was nothing wrong with them. We went through 2 full investigations. That commandant got fired because he was punishing them for complaining about having cigarettes taken from them. Then I looked at the Iowa Veterans Trust Fund. I thought, what a great idea. The interest from this is going to help our veterans in need, because there's veterans who are really suffering right now. By the way, suicide prevention is a real thing for veterans. They were giving them less than 1% interest on $30 million. It wasn't about helping the veterans, folks. And too much of our government is really not about helping us. I went to the treasurer. It now makes 10 times as much money for veterans in need. You have to ask questions, and you have to be willing to confront bad things. I took that same resolve to passage of the heartbeat bill. Do you guys know Jake Chapman and Brad Zahn or Rick Bertrand? The 4 of us forced passage of that bill by telling leadership, you won't get a budget unless we get this. You have to be tough. Not that I'm like some tough guy, but you have to be tough. So I wrote the state's active shooter bill. I also wrote a bill to keep radical gender ideology out of the classroom and out of the bathroom. But my journey in politics began way back in 2001. I took a call on a Friday afternoon at like 5 o'clock. And I answered the phone, and the lady on the other end of the line was kind of frantic. And she said to me, I want to sue Planned Parenthood. And I said, well, so do I. Give me a reason. And I said, why? What's going on? She said, I had an ultrasound 8 weeks ago. They told me I wasn't pregnant. I found out today I have 1 week to have an abortion. And I'm thinking, wow, what can I say to this woman to talk her out of it? So I just kind of stalled a little. I said, can I ask you some questions? I said, why are you doing it? And she said, my husband just left me. I have 3 kids. I work at Valentino's down the street, the pizza place. She said, there's no way I can take care of a 4th kid. And I said, well, is money the main thing? I said, have you thought about adoption? And she said, no. And she said, no, kind of like she was going to listen to me. Like she goes, no, like maybe there might be something there that we could get in. And I said, well, I got a proposition for you. And I don't know if you're going to take me up on it, but I'm going to make it. If I gave you $500 a month to carry that baby to term, and 3 months after that baby is delivered, would you take me up on it? And she said, you would do that? I said, yeah, I got a check for you. Come get it. She was in a tight spot. She was there 10 minutes later. I gave her the check. And I looked her in the eye and I said, I'll see you next month. And the next month came and went. And she didn't show. And I thought, oh, I guess we lost that baby. But a year later, I get a beautiful, beautiful thank you card in the mail with a picture of a baby girl. And I looked at that thing and I started to cry. And I'm like, God orchestrated that to save the life of a human. That's a really weighty thing. 15 years later, I was door knocking when I ran for the House. That thing taught me I could make a difference. I was knocking on doors in the House, and I knocked on this one door, and the guy opens the door, and he looks like he's known me for 20 years, and he goes, Jim! He like throws open his arms. I'm like, it was really awkward because I had no idea who he was. I'm like, I have no idea who you are, and it's a little concerning. And so he goes, come on in. Which, if you've ever door knocked for campaigns, yeah, right, yeah. So he goes, would you wait here in the living room? And I stood in his living room, and he said, give me a couple minutes. I'm standing there, and this lady walks into the room, and I looked at her, and I said, you look very familiar. And she said, Jim, I'm Kathy. And it was her. It was the mom. We both started to cry. I mean, how could you not? We both started to cry because it brought us back to that moment. And she said, I want to show you something. And she walked me into the kitchen. And on the refrigerator, the adoptive parents, let her stay in touch with that girl. Even today, she's 24. She goes to school in Kansas. On the refrigerator was a picture of a 15-year-old girl on a horse on a family farm. And I looked at that little girl and I said, you were with me that day in your mom's tummy. You just needed a little help to get here. I didn't say it out loud, but that's what went through my mind. And I can't help but feel the same way about our kids. Folks, they need some help. I mean, the government has given the seniors of this country a horrible time. Medicare is just a nightmare to navigate. Amen. And I wish that was all that we had to deal with, and that's a huge one. But there's a lot to consider about how the government is hurting our families and our kids and our seniors. Talk a little bit about that. There is a contrast between Ashley and I. I'm going to touch this briefly. Remember at the beginning I said there's a conflict? The money drives the bus, folks. We have a system that's configured for money to win. And it can't be that way. It has to be defined by what's best for the people, what's aligned with our Constitution, what authentically considers the interests of our children. That needs to be the frame. 70% of Ashley's donations come from out of state. She voted to send $138 billion to the Ukraine when our own borders are being overrun by 20 million illegal aliens. I don't think that's a good idea. I really don't. I don't know where you guys sit on the eminent domain, private property rights of Iowa farmers. I'm siding with the farmers. Right?
Yes.
Come on.
Yes.
She's taken $55,000 in campaign contributions from Bruce Rastetter. Do you guys know who that is? Okay, is that a good thing? Probably not. I'm here to apply for a job. Like, what would I do? Well, for one thing, I'm going to ask a lot of questions. And I have a question for you right here and now. By show of hands, how many people in this room know somebody who was injured or who died shortly after the COVID vaccination? Would you raise your hand? Look around the room, folks. Remember what they told us? It's the science. Well, it looks like the science killed a lot of our friends and seriously hurt them. That's why we have to have people that will stick up for us. If you give me the job, here's what I want to do. Because I am here to apply for a job. We have to protect the dollar, folks. We do. We have to protect the dollar because the dollar is about our individual economic security. Now, I know a lot of women. You know what? What's important to women? Economic security is important to women. Come on, let's be honest now. All right? That's true. Come on. Well, how do you have economic security when the value of your dollar is being inflated to the point where you lost 15% of your retirement in the last 3 years? That isn't fair to those people. You know what else? The Social Security that pays them 1.5% interest when the inflation's way north of that? Now, look, why don't Social Security people get the same deal that federal employees get? They put their money in a fixed index fund. I don't know, their retirements look pretty darn comfortable to me. But why don't Social Security people at least have that option? I think they should have that option. But here's what I want to do. We got to protect the dollar. What does that mean? That means have those balanced budget conversations. That means cap the money supply. You know what else it means? And this is long, long overdue. You got to audit the Federal Reserve. You got to. You got to audit the Federal Reserve, folks, because the reason why housing went up 45% since COVID is the Federal Reserve's monetary policies. And if you want to ask me about that afterwards, I'm glad to take you through it. Richard Nixon took us off the gold standard. It's time to go back. Or a basket of commodities, but we have to have something anchoring the value of a dollar because it's a matter of our children's economic security. Number two, I don't want another 20 million illegal aliens coming across the border. We absolutely have to finish the wall. You know what else we need to do? And I don't know what the delay is. We do have to pass the SAVE Act. If we don't have election integrity, right? Now here's where it gets real. We got to put people back in the driver's seat of this country. We got to put people over the machine. How do we do that? There is a machine, folks. There's a machine that can generate money quicker than you can breathe. We got to have term limits. We got to have them.
Yes.
We do. You know what else we need to do? We need to overturn Citizens United. Citizens United is the law that created super PACs where billionaires can fund campaigns with limitless contributions. You know, how am I doing? 2 minutes, 1 minute? Am I way over? Sorry. You're a very nice lady. I'm sorry I went over. All right. Okay, I'm almost done. All right. So we definitely can't have super PACs, which corporations use. And I'm not anti-corporation. I'm a Milton Friedman economics major. I mean, I know my money, okay? But here's what we need. To get our power, the power of our vote back, we have to get rid of that. To get our economic security back, we have to have free markets defining our economy again. Because right now, so many markets are defined by monopolies. That's why Obamacare created a monopoly. That's why our farmers are not getting a fair shake. That's why our kids are not getting a fair shake on their student loans. That's why housing's gone up 45%. We have to get free markets back into our economy to give us a choice, a voice, and economic power. We have to get our political power back by getting rid of super PACs. I adore my grandchildren. I want them to have a real opportunity to live out their American dream. I know you guys do, or you wouldn't be here. I think that's our responsibility. Look, I'm not going to fix everything, and I'm not going to promise you pie in the sky. Here's what I'll promise you. I will fight for the people of this country. I will put America first, and I'll put your interests first. Thank you very much. God bless you. Can I say one last little thing? I want to say one last little thing, and it's not a little thing at all. It's a great big thing. You know something? We will right the ship of this country when we turn to God and ask Him for help. Amen. And each of us can pray. You want to right the course of this ship? Let's ask our Father in heaven to help us, and He will do it. Without Him, I don't think we get it done. With Him, I know we get it done. Thank you very much. God bless you. Sure.